as well as on YouTube. It's Peter on the microphone. It is not Carlos, nor am I Norm. Norm will be joining us in a
Yeah,
couple minutes. Oh, or right
I
now, in
just
fact.
hopped on.
There he
I'm
is.
still getting set up, but I just hopped on.
There you go. Good morning, Norm.
Good morning, Peter. How are you?
I am great, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Did you have a good Boxing Day, my friend?
I did, in the British tradition of Boxing Day, as all the Commonwealth countries like to celebrate. Yes, we had a good day. Watched some Canadian junior hockey, which is my tradition, and made a puzzle with my daughter. So for some reason, that's become her
Nice,
tradition. We don't quite know why, but there we have it. So.
nice.
But yeah, so guys, if you're looking for Carlos, Carlos is getting some much needed rest. So dealing with the kids, I guess, overnight. It happens, right? They have bad nights, and with a young baby there, it's sometimes when they don't sleep, you don't sleep. So
One of the rites of passage of becoming a dad, right?
exactly. Exactly. So, guys, look, we're here in the in between period, right? Between holidays, where we have Christmas and New Year that have this week in between. Every year we go through this, where relatively low volume, not a lot of stuff moving, but there are still opportunities out in the marketplace. And I think yesterday was a good example of. But before we get to that, actually, no, let's talk about yesterday. Let me just start there because I was surprised. I came into the market without a lot to watch, and on my watch list largely was some continuation plays. So things like Apple, which had just been moving. As you can see, I've got the daily and the 5-minute chart up here for you guys to take a look at. But yesterday, I mean, look at this. I didn't actually end up playing Apple, but it was just a nice, steady, continued climb, setting, again, new all time highs. Speaking of all time highs, I'm going to jump down here to, well, that's not all time highs, but Tesla. Tesla as well, right? Not a huge day for Tesla yesterday, really. However, I did find a couple of good trades on it, specifically this drop here right around noon that I was able to take advantage of on a short play. We called that out in the room, and I think there was a couple of other members that were able to take advantage of that with me. So that was good. Nvidia was on my
Yeah,
watch
you
list.
had a great trade on that short, Peter.
Yeah, thank you. It was one that, for me, I've got very specific patterns. Let me just go back to it. And I could show you guys here, if I just go back to Tesla 1 minute yesterday, it also showed on the 2 minute chart, but this is the type of pattern I like, right? Some people like to call this a head and shoulders. I really just see it as sort of, this was a, let me get my pen up so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. But this was first we had a failed double top, right? Because it set a higher high. But then what I did is I take this as a new high, and then it had sort of the second top. So this is my double top. We had a moving average cross come in. It obviously was showing weakness with successively lower highs, and that allowed me to. My pen working here? Hold on a second. I gotta remember how to use my pen. Apparently it's been too long. I've been on vacation for too long. Here we go. Anyway, so here was the high, lower high, slightly lower high. I entered right about here for a couple of reasons. One, it was setting lower highs. Two, I like it when it sort of suddenly showed resistance off the 50 moving average, which also showed a moving average cross. So, it seemed like a good move for a potential move. I was looking for previous day. Well, this actually wasn't there at the time, but I was looking for around this level where I took a partial and then a VWAP, and I got some bonus out of it, a little bit more. I was able to take some off at this moving average, and then frankly I had to leave, so I exited and I lost that last $2. But still, great trade, great opportunity, which just goes to show, guys, you never know, right? If you keep your eyes open, there's always
I
good opportunities out there.
I actually had that on the long side out of the gate. That was my good trade of the day yesterday. Right where your second green arrow after the market excuse me, your first green arrow after the market opens, consolidation, pop up for just under 427. I saw that it failed to make a lower low on the candle right about where the left edge of your circle is. Wrote it up, consolidated a VWAP. It was a little bit hairy there for a minute. Wasn't sure, but just like you drew there, I saw that it was hugging that line. Once it popped above VWAP, it was free to go. I think I wrote it up to about 431. I got out of the rest of my position at 431-ish, and then 5 seconds later, our Brinzinga Squawk called out that there was a $500 call sweep, the $500 option call sweep for January 3rd, next Friday. Somebody's betting that this is going to be $500 by a week from today, and it popped at like another $3, and I was so furious.
It's been going, but that seems a little aggressive.
Yeah, it was probably Elon.
Yeah, you think he was doing it personally?
It might have been.
Maybe. So, look, I've got a couple of questions in the room. Let me address them quickly here since they're good questions about the trade. First off, on my chart, if you guys are seeing arrows, these are not my trades. I've got a study that's called the moving average pair, and I've paired the 9 and the 20 moving average, which on my chart are the gray and the green lines. So whenever they cross, I get an arrow. If the 9, which is the gray one, crosses the 20 to the upside, then I get a green arrow. If it crosses it to the downside, I get a red arrow. It just gives me sort of an indication of where those are crossing because they tend to be in the price action and it's hard to see, which is why I use that. The 50 is to me the bigger, more important moving average cross when it crosses both the 9 and the 20. I do not have that marked with an arrow, although you could use a moving average pair in that as well. That I find easier to look at, and I do that manually. The question I had was what stop did I use? I had a 50-cent stop on that on Tesla. It actually I probably could have done it with less, but it had like a 15 to 20 cent spread, and Tesla can easily jump $1 on you at any point. So even 50 cents, you could argue was aggressive. Again, theoretically, in the actual price movement at the time, I could have done less, but that felt like a safe margin, and it never got close to that 50 cents on me. So that's what I was using on Tesla. The last question I'll address, actually somebody was mentioning AMD, which is a good point out. Let me just draw it in here. At the same time I saw this, I did call out in the room that AMD looked weak. And it was even weaker than I expected. What I was seeing, frankly, guys, was just this. Right? If I just zoom in here, again, same pattern almost, right? So here I was looking for a high, right? This was high of day. It set a new high of day, but then it set a lower high and a lower high, and then it was sort of there was just a little bit of a downtrend. I'm thinking, this was moving so little. Look at this. I mean, it's like 3-5 cents you could have taken as a stop. I said, hey, it looks weak potentially. I was only looking for about 10 or 15 cents on it. I didn't actually take the trade, to be honest, but I did mention in the room, I think a couple people took it, and look, I had no expectation this thing was going to drop as much as it did. So, so whoever got into this could have ridden this all the way down for like $1.50, which on AMD is pretty big actually. So, big move on AMD. I'll go through the rest of yesterday a little more quickly here, guys. But NVIDIA was on my list. Didn't look good at the open to me. Pretty tough trade. It had the same drop, though, that you saw in AMD. I don't know if there was news in the semiconductor sector. I didn't actually see anything, but it certainly shows that very similar pattern, doesn't it? Roku, we've been watching for a while. Again, I'm finding it a tough trade these days, but there is opportunity if you've got the intestinal fortitude to hold it, because it can jump around on you quite a bit. But if you did hold, you could have taken it for this ride again down below VWAP. BA, I was watching. Boeing, I never know. Like, you can never relate Boeing's movement to the news, I find. So yesterday, I was short biased. On the open, I thought, okay, this is definitely, look at this, it's definitely going down. But then it popped all the way back up. This is a fairly big move around VWAP, right? This is a full dollar that it's bouncing here. And I just said, you know what, I'm not going to trade it, because even around, I remember looking at it somewhere around, I can't remember, it was 10:30 or so, it still only had about 600,000 shares traded. So if at that point during the day, it's making these movements with less than 1 million shares, to me, that's just a no trade, because there's just not enough volume. It can get very erratic. So I stopped watching BA at that point. Trade of the day for many people was Rite Aid. If you look at the daily chart, there's usually a point in time where after 1, 2, 3 days you expect it to drop. But look, we've got 4, and then yesterday was 5 days in a row with significant upward climb. blasting out of this range that it had been in for a very long time here. Sure, it had good earnings, but I mean, this is a move that is frankly much greater than the value of those earnings. So there's probably something else going on here. And again today, look at
That's a
this.
short squeeze.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's a good point, Norm. There was a lot. The charts were telling us that. Let me just see here. What is it? What is it looking at? The short float is 26%. It's probably less than that by now. I've got to think, because remember, there's a delay in these numbers.
It was, yeah, that's from the 15th of December, and it was released on the 24th. The number that was from the last day of November was significantly higher, even, I believe, off the top of my head. So it's now traded. I think what did it calculate out to? There's so for instance, from the 15th, 53 million share float, about 27% of it short. So you're talking, let's say, real quick, 15 million shares roughly, and it's traded well above that. So I'd anticipate. I was surprised that we got this pop this morning still. So interesting stuff.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think that's the first comment I made in the room this morning. Like, my God, it's up over $21. I mean, it just seems to keep going. So at some point, you've got to think it'll falter. But guys, be careful about betting on that, because, let's work backwards. If you look at a weekly chart, I mean, Rite Aid has been on such a decline for several years now that, I mean, it's got lots of room if people get very aggressive on it to the upside. I have no idea the history that brought it down from $150 down to under $1. But I don't know if that was a reverse split or what was going on. I don't know what happened here. But anyways,
no.
Either way.
They were left for dead is what happened there, yeah.
Obviously, right? I mean, so, knowing that at some point there was a valuation, right? Memories could have that, and this thing could easily climb to twice where it is now. So, just be cautious. We are day traders. We will use technical indicators to give us some indication as to what's happening, and if you got to play the momentum that's before you. So obviously RAD is something that's obviously in play. The last one I will mention here is Uber. I had it on my list. I was looking for some movement. I actually didn't know whether I was long or short bias, but I expected some movement on Uber over the holidays here, and it didn't actually do much yesterday. The move was very slight. Really from top to bottom, I think it was only like a 60 or 70 cent day. So when it moves less than $1, it doesn't give you a lot of trading opportunities. So it looked like a tough trade, and I just stayed away from it. The very last one that just occurred to me that we had been watching yesterday is one that has now completely escaped me. What the heck was the other one that we were looking at? Oh, WW. That was it. We were talking about it a lot in the room, guys, because, Norm, I think as you yourself pointed out, this is the time of year, or maybe it was Carlos, this is the time of year when Weight Watchers tends to get some movement and some activity, because, it's time of year when it makes its most money. A lot of signups, right? New Year's resolutions are coming. This is when these, health clubs and weight loss programs, right, when they get a lot of new subscribers that may or may not take advantage of the services, it doesn't matter. As long as they sign up and pay, that's usually good for the stock. But yesterday was a big down day for it. And it pulled down pretty much off the open. I never found any news that drove that. There was some positive news, I think, from a couple of days ago. I think I heard you mention, Norm, about Oprah re-signing for another 5 years.
A 5 year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Correct.
So that presumably would be good for them, but whatever happened here, the stock was not demonstrating that yesterday. So I
It
have
was
no...
on Nutrisystem on rolling out some kind of new promotion for the New Year's. What looked like tanked them to me.
Competitive pressure. All right, well, that makes sense. So that just could be the downfall, expecting more competition. It's interesting because I was watching TV with the World Juniors I mentioned yesterday, and they were Bowflex was advertising, and the style of their advertisements. Bowflex advertises this time of year all the time. Again, right? Health programs. This is when they sell people these machines that become clothing racks in your bedroom or wherever you put them. But their style of advertising looked just like the Peloton ads, which I thought was interesting. So they're obviously going head to head with Peloton. So, all right, guys, let's take a look at today. I'm not sure, Norm, if you've had a chance to take a look at the markets overall. Everything was looking green so far this morning. Any perspective on the global market?
Yeah, the Sando rally continues. Buys up a third of a point, which is a pretty good gap for this time of year. But as far as world markets, I mean, essentially, Europe's green, Asia was mixed. Bonds dropped a little bit on the 10-year, the U.S. Treasuries. Oil popped yesterday. It's up a little bit again today. So just kind of, it's a status quo. There's not a whole lot going on, but the market just keeps continuing to melt up higher.
Yeah.
We've got very little economic data. A little bit came out. One piece came out yesterday. The big thing people are going to be looking for toward the end of next week is the ISM manufacturing index and manufacturing PMI that come out Thursday and Friday.
Okay, so that will be like this next week, you say, or this week? Thursday, Friday?
Next week.
Next week. Oh, okay, all right, good. All right, so today we're not expecting much news. It sounds like
Nope.
All right.
Nope, not at all.
Good to know. Okay. So, guys, let's take a look. Our gappers list, we spent a little more time on that just because, frankly, the gappers list was very slight, as you would expect at this time of year. But like I was just pointing out, almost everything I was talking about, let me move it up where people on YouTube can see it. Most of these things were not on the gappers list whatsoever, right? They were just continuation plays. We were watching, stocks in play. So we'll take a look today and see what we've got. Starting with the one at the top of my list here at FLXN. So let's throw this on here, XN, and see what it's got going here. Flexion Therapeutics. Now, I think they had some news. It was actually a little bit of a weird news for me, but Norm, have you had a chance to read up on that?
I've not dug deep into it, but I know it was an FDA approval. I think it might have been a ability to relabel an existing drug, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was what I read too. That there's no change to the drug, but they got approval from the FDA because I think previously they had to put it was not for repeated or long-term use, and now they're allowed to put that on the medication, which I suppose would mean that they're going to, it's better longevity for this drug and obviously more sales. So that seems to be what's driving the pop today. 20% up this morning. It's not a low float. It's about 33 million shares here. I saw in FinViz it was about 38 million. So wherever it is, the float is around that area. I noticed the short float, however, is up around this 25% mark, which, when it's there, you've got to always watch that there's a potential opportunity for pops. Usually it's around that 20-25 mark where I start to consider it significant. So, it might also get a further drive from that if people, get squeezed on the shorts. But I expect it to play like a low float today. So for now, the pre-market actually doesn't look that bad, but we'll see what happens with it. In fact, let me just move my chart to a 1 minute so we can see what's going on. Yeah, see, the pre-market's not so bad. I don't like the fact that it's not still going up. So it's getting this choppy range right now, which tells me there might not be a lot more room for a steady climb, but I guess we'll find out. All right, it's on the list. RAD on the list. Well, we were just talking about that, and I saw no specific news, no new news, I should say, on Rite Aid today.
I haven't either.
Okay. Well, that's good. So I didn't miss it. But, guys, I mean, again, this, who knows? I mean, this really, it's gapping up, like $2, another 11%.
Definitely in play.
Yeah, so, it's absolutely in play. Over 1.5 million shares this morning already on a day where we've got low float. So, I think we have every expectations that it's going to continue today. So absolutely, it's going to be on my list. MBOT was on my list for yesterday. Now, yesterday, there absolutely was some news about a secondary offering that was actually priced below the current market price. Is this just a continuation, Norm, or is there anything new going on?
No, I'm not seeing anything new. I think this is just continuation from what's been going on the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and MBOT, it is a low float, so very low float here at less than 4 million shares. The offering, if I remember, was like 960,000 shares, but that's that's
almost
20% 20% more, right, being issued, which is dilutive,
Yep.
which normally has an effect of reducing the stock price, especially being that those are issued at 10.50, which is down here below the current price action. However, it didn't seem to affect it much yesterday. It was, it held its price. So today the pre-market action does not look good. I don't really like the look of it. So I'll keep it here for now, being that the list is light. But I don't have an expectation that I'll be trading it any more today than I did yesterday. So guys, that really brings us to the stuff that we were already watching. Let me flip through them to see what's happening this morning. So Weight Watchers, as I said, as much as it's
Go through active and gainers. There might actually be some stuff on there that
you bet. Thank you. I forget that all the time. All right.
no problem.
I'm not used to doing this stuff. That's why we got a team. All right. That's a good one. PT. Oh, because we'll start with one that does look active. PinTech Technologies. What's up with PT here?
It's an 18.5 million share float Chinese telecom company. There was something about some new financing for them was the news that came out. Didn't really dig into it. It's not my wheelhouse. I won't be trading it. But I can, it's lower float. It's a Chinese stock that's got 2 hits against it for my trading. It's under $5. There's another hit. That having been said, it is in play, and if it's in somebody's playbook, it might be interesting to them.
Yeah, I mean it's moving well so far this morning, and it's got some volumes. Oops, grabbed the wrong window there. So I will leave it on my list so that we can mark some levels for you guys. But as Norm said, it's one that I normally the Chinese stocks I don't like so much myself. You just never know. They don't move in a way that I can predict for some reason in a lot of cases. But we'll see what happens. 4 million shares, hard to ignore so far. So we'll put that on the list. F-Cell, Fuel Cell Energy. Now it's been on and off our list a lot over the last couple of years. Whatever I just did, that is definitely not.
And once again, it's kind of the same boat as the other one. I won't be trading this, but it's definitely on the move and in play today. If stocks that cost $1 are your playbook and wheelhouse, then it would be something I would be looking at.
I don't like the price action quite as much on F-Cell, but it has the volume. And as Norm said, this one's even iffier for me. Like at least PT, it was sort of moving steadily. This one with $1 price, yeah, it's not a trade I like. But we'll leave it on. We can set some levels for you guys and see what else we've got.
And it is, just a note, it is not a low float. It's 170 million share float.
I gotta believe it'll probably be trading somewhat like it at only $1 a share.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. Yeah, good point. All right, INPX. Really don't like the pre-market. It's an 8-cent stock. Not spending any time on that. AMD is always on the list. Being that it's at all-time highs, and it's been a mover. I admit I had it on my bad boy list. Like Brian in our room has also not been looking at AMD, but I've moved it back into my active stocks because it has been moving well and fairly predictably. So we'll see what happens. But pre-market doesn't look fantastic. But with AMD, the semiconductors, AMD, MU, Intel, and Nvidia specifically, you can't really judge what's going to happen in the market by the pre-market. They all tend to get volume and tend to move. All right, FLXN.
We've already got it.
We already talked about that. Good. That's why it sounded familiar. Yep. Apple. Well, look, we've already talked about Apple. Look at this, $291. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's looking like it's going to try and break 300 by the end of the year. It's within reach. I mean, $9 is a little bit of a stretch, but hey, we've got a few days, so I think it's probably got to be on a list. I don't have any news on Apple for today. Norm, unless you've seen anything.
No, nothing specific for today.
All right. Okay, good. Well, then it'll be a continuation play. We'll see what happens. It tends to move with the SPY. It's always arguable as to, is it moving the markets or is the market moving it? But whichever way you take it, Apple could potentially be in play.
It did get an upgraded price target a few days ago. I think that's part of what's pushing it. And then just the news of NASDAQ hitting 9,000. And just mainstream news the last couple of days is probably helping push it as well.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, then. Comcast, really don't like the look of it, and it's not a great trader anyways, so I'll just go through the gainers here. What haven't we looked at? ITRM, terrible pre-market. Big jump here, but doesn't look good. ASRT looks equally bad. VRNA, nothing going on there. ZLab, nope. GNFT, nada. All right.
All the
SPRT.
rest of those.
SPRT has one that has been on, or is it SRPT I'm thinking of?
SRPT.
SRPT. All right, so it's not this one. Never mind, because yeah, I thought it was higher price than just a buck. So this doesn't look good pre-market. Whatever's going on with it, it's down 45%, but it doesn't even have 100,000 shares, so I'm not going to spend any time looking at it. HSDT, yeah, terrible pre-market. SLNO, also equally ugly. VTVT, nope. Last one.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. Nothing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. MTSL. Yeah, these are all looking pretty bad. So just
It's
going
garbage.
over
I've looked
to the New York stocks. RAD.
We don't need to grab those.
Yeah, well, RAD we've already talked about. That's why it grabbed my attention. I'll just see if there's anything. Bank of America, no. It's often jumping on the list just based on volume, but it's not normally a good trader. Although it's been on a run. Look at that. Huh. I like to look at Bank of America sometimes just to get it's sort of like a little bit of a barometer of some of the financial stocks for me, but I haven't looked at it in the last, well, I just got back this week, but it looks like it's been on a little bit of a run here for the last month and a half. Interesting. All right, anyways, so that's it. Let's go to both the, well, I'll ask you first, Norm, anything that you've got that I haven't already talked about?
Did you go over QGen?
I did not. That's a good point.
It was on and off our list, and then we need to hop real quickly and grab some from the room because we're running just a minute behind.
Yeah, QGen was a good one that was on the list yesterday. I think it had some news about not completing a sale, which people who were banking on the sale had pumped the price up, but now it had dropped. So what is it doing today? So it's it's right around that 2% mark, right? I guess that's why it's sort of been up and on and off.
Pre-market action sucks. It's really not anything great.
Yeah. I don't know that this will be in play. The volume isn't great, 158,000 shares, so yeah, that's not huge. Yeah, we'll see. FCell on YouTube people are talking about, which we already talked about. In the room, guys, anything that you want us to take? Peloton? Actually, that's sort of a new seasonal play. You think Peloton, it's getting some attention over the season for lots of good and bad reasons, but it's certainly been a mover.
No volume, no gap.
Yeah, I see no volume this morning. I don't know. I didn't actually watch it much yesterday. It actually, if I remember, it did move down yesterday. Let me just yesterday it sort of had a move down in the morning and then flatlined through the afternoon. So I don't know. I mean, this would be one that we'd watch through scanners. I wouldn't spend time on Peloton unless it jumps up on our scanners. Okay,
A few people have called out Uber. Uber looks good for a daily breakout.
Let's check out Uber. Yeah, it's been consolidating the last couple of days. If I look at a daily chart here, again, yesterday it moved less than $1. So, and if I look for the last few days, it's sort of been in a very narrow range. So yeah, if it breaks over 31, I would say that's probably a signal for me that it might be worth paying attention to. But unless that happens, I wouldn't be spending a lot of time on it. So again, scanners is where I would put Uber. Last one I'll look at is Bubba, since a few people have mentioned it. Wow, it's been on a steady run for the month of December. Bubba often has a little bit of volume pre-market, 150,000 shares today. It doesn't look great. Like I don't see any specific catalyst, at least based on the price action. Again, unless there's some news that's going to drive it, again, I would only look for it to come about via scanners. So, okay. So let's go to our announcements. I'm just calling up the announcements here so I can turn it over to Norm and give him the sheets somewhere on one of my screens. This darn thing is popping up. Here it is. All right. My PC I got too many things going on now. 1 second. Here we go.
I get it. All right, flip to the second page if you would, Peter. All right, guys. We are real close to launching our new website. I mean, it should be, I'm guessing, in the next couple of weeks. Just kind of proving things and getting it ready to go. We would love to add some member testimonials to it. If you are logged in your member directory, I guess, on the left-hand side, the last item will be submit a testimonial. We would love to put up a few of those on the chat room. So thank you very much for your honest review. And we look forward to having that. You can include a headshot or a nice picture of yourself trading, whatever you like. Anyway, to go along with it. Also, new tabs in chat room, call outs, and swing trading. Just a reminder, guys, try to keep each tab clean. If you're just chatting, use off topic, call outs, mention what you're looking at. You don't need to go into a whole lot of detail. Somebody could ask about it, but not pages and pages. Try to keep it as clean as possible. Right now, we are running the holiday promotion. You can use the promo code HOLIDAYS19. That's HOLIDAYS19. Get 40% off a one-time lifetime membership. New scanner contest still going on. I will probably shut that down pretty soon here at the end of the year, and then let the community vote. Winner win an iPad or an iPhone. We've got a meetup coming up in Seattle, January 18th. I'm sure we'll start scheduling meetups. I know people have asked about different places. So if you want to have a meetup, get it, try to get it, put it together, mention it to Andrew, and he can go almost anywhere. You've seen him travel all over the place to go meet people and our traders, members and non-members alike. So also, if you're watching on YouTube, you haven't been in the chat room, you'd like to give it a shot, you can do so with the promo code premarket24. That's premarket24, and you'll get a 1-week trial at a discount. Does not auto renew, does not turn into a different kind of membership. Also, if you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell on YouTube, you'll be notified whenever we go live with new content. That's all we got. On to you, Peter.
Fantastic. Thanks, Norm. All right. So, guys, let's take a look at setting some levels here. And I'll start at the top with FLXN. All right. So we're well over this range, if I can actually say it. The high here was 2139, so I'm going to put a level roughly there. Let's go back in time, though. Oh, so it's been very much higher. Let's see what happened in this consolidation area. Well, it's pretty much at a level right here at $23. I can see that it was both, looks like it was support and resistance at different points in time, so I like that $23 level. If this thing really runs up here around $27.80, you can certainly see that it capped up there. I don't really know that it's going to go that high, but you never know. I suppose it's possible. And then... yeah, that's about it for levels. I mean, there's lots of other things in between here, guys, but unless it's really obvious, I just won't be setting it. So that's what I'll look for in FLXN. If it drops, I'll probably not be trading it, but if you were looking for the downside, we've got the previous day's highs and lows as it was in this consolidation range, so you just watch for that back where it was yesterday. RAD, well, we said, like, this thing is not at all-time highs, but it's certainly at a high for the recent past, the last year. I'd set a level yesterday at 1960, which it didn't actually make yesterday, but it blasted through pre-market. So I'm going to leave that on my chart, seeing where the high is. So there's a high here right at $20 at the top of this candle. So that might be worth setting a level here, right? Let me just put it right at $20. And that way, if this thing does drop, we might look for some support to happen there. If it goes higher, well, look, it happens to be right now sitting in this area of consolidation that it had set. I'm just going to mark the high and low of that area roughly at $21.80 and $23. So you can see that, consolidated here back, well, a year ago, actually. This was a year ago that was in that range. So we'll see if that is meaningful to it today. And frankly, who knows what's going to happen with RED. We'll see if it's another good mover today. MBOT, like we mentioned, pre-market doesn't look great. I have some previous levels marked here around 1525, at a low at 13 1314. I'm just going to leave those on my chart. Again, this is one I'll probably only play if it jumps onto scanners. I don't really expect a continuation play, but we'll have it in case. PT. Again, low. This is one of those low dollar stocks, so be careful with it. It obviously was showing some support here on its way down at $2.62. It bounced off of it 3 times before finally pushing through. We'll see if that acts as any resistance. In fact, today it came up just through. It's sitting right below that level. Came up to a high, pre-market high, looks like of $2.83. So I've already got that marked. If it does go through that, well, watch the whole dollar at 3. I don't see it having reacted to it before. But I'm going to mark here roughly the high of where these 3 peaks were at $4.20, and that's probably good for PT. FCell, again, another $1 type stock. It can be an erratic trader. Pre-market high is currently at $1.44, so that's good there. There's a gap here, so if it does bust through here to try and fill that gap, that'll be up $2.40. So I'm going to put a mark there, and I'll put a mark. What is this candle here at $2.20? So I'll just put a daily level there, and we'll see if it gets into that range and higher. Then I would revisit it again. I'm unlikely to trade FCell, but if you guys are looking at it, watch that. Those gaps tend to be something it tends to aim for. So it either might falter before the gap, or it'll just push right through the gap and move up above it. QGen. So. Pulling back from the potential sale, which means, again, bad pre-market. God only knows. I don't know if this will be in play. I already have a level marked. You can see I marked this level where the low of this candle was before the gap, another gap we were talking about, at 31.30. Now that it's currently trading sort of in that gap range, it could fall further. I don't see any obvious levels to set here, quite frankly. Obviously, I'd look at this in the past because I've got levels set at 26.28 and way down at 24.85. Probably not going to get anywhere near there. I think this is honestly going to go sideways, probably between about $30 and $34, but I could be wrong. If I am wrong, then I'll revisit it and we'll set some levels later. Peloton, boy, it has sort of been suffering this holiday season. This is all we have for information because Peloton is still a recent IPO, so we don't have more data than this. The all-time low is at $20.52. I do think around $25, there's no actual daily level I can clearly set from a technical level, but I'm just thinking around 25 is an area it might level off just because it's sort of a whole number. You can see it bounced off of that as resistance a couple of times, broke through once before. It sort of had the run up, and then it had, unfortunately, its advertising gaffe, which seems to have brought it back down. So we'll see what happens on Peloton. No real obvious levels. We don't have a lot of data to work off of, but we'll see what happens. Bubba is the last one you guys were mentioning in the room. I have a lot of previous levels marked on here, and some seem very valid. 195.72 I'm going to leave in here because certainly look at this candle, hit it, and then there was some little bit of consolidation on its way up. 211.02 is the highest level I had marked, right? Because it was the peak of this area back in May, June of 2018. And is this all-time high for Bubba? It's got to be close if it's not. Yeah, it looks like it is. So yeah, so we're sitting at all-time highs, and whenever you get a stock at all-time highs, I mean, you just never know what's going to happen, right? So the high of pre-market is an all-time high at 218.70. So we'll just see what happens. This thing may very well just keep going up today. We'd set some levels previous days on these other symbols, so I'll just go over a couple very quickly. WW, it's heading now into a range where it had this consolidation September through November. So the current, I've already got a daily level marked here, right where the price sits right now at 37.30. As you can see, these red dotted lines on my chart. I'm just going to mark sort of the bottom, roughly the bottom of this area. This isn't a great level because there's no distinct point, but around 34.50. I'm thinking that we may see some support for it if it doesn't just tank and go lower. So we'll see what happens on WW. AMD, again, all-time highs. So you can see all these levels I had set. I'm just going to actually remove these from my chart. They are no longer relevant. I've got nothing other than the previous day high and low, which my chart automatically marks. like, again, it can go anywhere. There's no upward limit as to where it can stop. Let me just make sure, is this actually all-time high? Because this is a stock with a lot more history. Back in the early 2000s, it could have been significantly higher. I don't know. Whoops. Let's just check out of interest's sake. Oh, look at that. See, 2006, it spiked, but it is above that. So there is. So this is not all-time high. So there was a higher high. It looks like all-time high is about 48.50. So while that was almost 20 years ago, God, it makes me feel old to say that. But back in 2000, it was higher at 48.50. Who knows? It may come back and revisit that, despite the fact that that's a very, very old level. But I'll just put it in here for interest's sake anyways. All right. Apple, we've talked about also at all-time highs, so I've got the dailies in there. Tesla, all-time highs. Nvidia, well, I've got a previous level marked. This is definitely not all-time highs. It's been much higher and much more recent at 252. I don't know what Nvidia will do today. It's not particularly in play, but you just never know. Roku, we've got a ton of levels already set, as you can see. I don't think it's going to be in play. I'm not going to spend time on it. And RAD, we've already talked about. Last one I'll talk about here is Uber. Uber, I already mentioned it earlier, but I think if it gets over 31, that's where I will pay attention to it. I've got two levels set, you can see on my chart, at 33.75 and at 34.79, because those are the where these things sort of were rounded, these tops. So we'll see. If it does run today, those are areas that I'll look for. All right, guys, that's it. So for me, my watch list today, I think I'm going to keep FLXN on the list, just to see what happens with it. I will absolutely be watching RAD, but that's about it. I think I might. The PT is sort of interesting, the pre-market activity and the volume. We're up to almost 5 million shares pre-market. I just don't like the fact that it's such a low dollar stock. That it's not, that makes it less interesting, but I will put it on my list. And then I'm going to keep a couple of the ones that we were talking about. Uber, maybe AMD, I will put on my list as well, and then we'll see what happens on the scanners. So that's what the world is looking like for me this morning. In the room, I see Thor is going to be watching RAD. Why not? Thor has had some fantastic trades on RAD. He's been nailing it. So you might as well keep watching it. QGen and FLXN are secondary ones that he'll be keeping an eye on. So there you go, guys. Some good ideas. For those on the web, consider, if you're thinking about joining the room, as Norm mentioned earlier, we have the opportunity for you to join at a discounted rate, whether you wanted to get a lifetime membership or you just wanted to give us a try. The 1 week chat room trial, give us a try. You never know. We acknowledge that every chat room is not for everybody, and you've got to find one that fits you, your trading personality, and gives you value, right, on your trading day. So if we are that room for you, then we'd love to have you and love to be able to chat with you on a daily basis, get your insight as you participate in our room. So pre-market 24 is what you can use for a discount code to give us a trial. So enough PR. Hopefully we'll see you. For those guys that are with us every day, thanks so much. I'll be back on the microphone this afternoon. We're going to head into the open here. I think we'll have Brian on the mic and Norm, potentially. Are you going to stick with us through the open, or is it Carlos, if he is able to wake up and get in here? We'll find out, guys, in a few minutes. So either way, Brian, I can see, is just logging into the room. I'll say farewell to everybody on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Careful trading on this Friday.
Peter, did you ask me a question?
I did. I was just asking if you were going to be live through the open, or if we were going to leave that to.
Yes. Okay, I will be. I will be trading the open with Brian today.
Fantastic. There you go, guys. So that's our lineup for this morning. It'll be Brian and Norm at the open, and I said I'll be on this afternoon. Thor will be on the microphone as usual over the lunch hour. and maybe we'll have an opportunity to get Eamon with us as well. So with that, guys, on YouTube, we'll be signing off. Thanks so much. Trade safe. It is a Friday, as Carlos likes to say, right? Be careful. Follow your rules. You don't want to ever go into a weekend having regretted your trades or kicking yourself for having broken your rules. If you had a losing trade but you followed your rules, there's value in that, and that's actually a good thing. So stick to those rules. Take some good trades. Good luck. And we will talk to you again at the pre-market on Monday. Take care, everyone.
Take care, guys. Trade safe. Have a great weekend.